Welcome to the MMA Fan Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Stu and Blake.
Hello and welcome to the MMA Fan Podcast. I'm Stu Whiffin. Sitting opposite me always, Mr. Blake Harrison. How are you today, mate?
I'm all right. I've not had a huge amount of sleep.
You don't sound all right. You sound concern in your voice there, mate.
No. I'm okay. I had a late night. I think that this is how pathetic I am. I had a little drink last night, and I was on the vodka and Coke Zeros, and I think a bit of late night caffeine for me does me no good.
Yeah.
I ended up watching basically all the prelims bar Gastelum Curtis when I got home. And my wife had been asleep for like an hour and a bit or whatever. And I was like, I've got to turn this off now because, I need to go to sleep. Took me ages to then get to sleep. And then I woke up about 2.5 hours later, just buzzing up. Well, I had a little bit of a nightmare, mate, because I'd watched The Last of Us recently and I had a zombie nightmare and it did me no good.
Jesus
Christ. I had a zombie nightmare. And and then
told me
about 5 to 6, I was awake. I was like, no, this is it now. I better go down and watch it. Oh, yeah, they do freak me out, yeah.
Well, don't watch them then, you knobhead.
No, I know. I shouldn't watch them, but right. I heard it was really, really good. And I think it was. Like, there was 1 or 2 episodes in particular that were really, really good.
Yeah.
But is it worth me having sleepless nights over? Probably not, but it's happened now. I did it, and that's what's going on. Yeah. So yeah, that was my evening. So I got up at about 5 to 6 and ended up watching the rest of the fights. How about you? How did you watch the fights?
It's quite weird you say that. I turned my TV on at 5 to 6 this morning.
Oh, really?
Like literally woke up at 5:45, laid in bed, and my dog was getting a bit fidgety, and I thought, he wants to get up. And then I thought, he don't really want to get up, but I'm going to use that as an excuse for me to get up because I really, really, and I like to watch the fights before anyone else in my house gets up. So I quite like to just have like a couple of hours to myself, just like with a couple of cups of coffee, just enjoying it. And that's exactly what I've done. And oh my life, so much to talk about today, mate. One of the things I should say is I've watched that, and then I've just jumped on with the bank holiday chores. You've watched quite a bit or some of the post-fight stuff, right?
I've watched Dana White's press conference, and I started watching Izzy, but I only got a couple of minutes in before we had to start this. Okay. But the thing that I think we could start with actually, which was in the Dana White press conference, not to do with UFC 287, but someone asked him about the rumors of the July card in London. Mm-hmm. And Dana White has confirmed that they are trying to do a card in London in July. I think that is likely. He said they're scheduled to have a fight night, but he is working on making it a pay-per-view. So the obvious thing would be Leon v. Colby, which we all know, pay-per-view in London at the O2, I'd imagine, in July. So that's not confirmed yet, but it is like Dana White has confirmed that he is trying to get that done and trying to make that work. So that is really good news for UK fight fans. We could get yet another pay-per-view on UK soil. Leon Edwards flying the flag against Colby Covington.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So There you go. A little bit of tidbit of info for you there. I mean, I expected more of a reaction from you there, Stu. Just yes, please.
Do you know what, right?
Stu's not bothered. He's just desensitized to all these pay-per-views in the UK now. He's been to one, he's been to them all. Do
you know what? It's not that, right? I can't wait. Whenever the UFC comes to the UK, it's absolutely fucking amazing. And I can't wait for it to come back in July. But I don't want to watch Leon versus Colby. It's not a fight that excites me, and it's a fight that sometimes worries me.
I will take Leon v. Colby if it means it's happening in London,
as
opposed to like Leon versus anyone else anywhere else in the world, or UK, I should say, rather than London. I'll travel. I agree. But to be fair, and we'll get on to this, what happened in last night's fights didn't make me think there's really another option that they were going to use. There's the obvious option of Bilal Muhammad and all that stuff, but he was never going to get the shot. It was going to be Colby or Masvidal / Burns. And I don't think enough happened in that fight. We know Burns has won that really changes anything. You're right there, mate. Sending a little selfie to yourself. You realise you're on camera, yeah? You know you're on camera?
Do you know my eyelids?
For anyone that's just listening to this, Stu just pulled his phone up and was like almost taking a selfie. I don't know what he's doing.
My eyes swollen up. I like literally. I'm sure. I don't know if my missus punched me in the night. I don't know, but my eyes starting to swell up. That's quite strange. Anyway.
Let's get on track, shall we?
Yes.
UFC 287, Israel, the last style bender Adesanya.
Boom.
Absolutely KOs Alex Pereira. I mean, I don't think many people saw it going down the way it did. I think there were people. I mean, Israel was the favorite. There were people saying that Israel could KO him. You thought that Israel would tire him out with some wrestling and then finish him. I don't think anyone thought it would be a second round KO, sort of almost a one-punch knockout. I know he did land a couple of strikes, but it was almost like one shot and he was just like on his way out.
Yeah. I'm going to moan about Rogan and DC throughout this whole episode.
Okay.
That was the greatest knockout in the history of the... No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. It was good. And obviously the gravitas of the situation made it more exciting.
I think that's what it was.
Greatest knockout in the history of the UFC.
It was fantastic. And with the storyline
because it was slightly unexpected.
It was more fantastic because of the storyline. It was more fantastic because, and I'm not agreeing with them, by the way. I hear your point, but I think I sympathize with it, especially being live and in the moment, because Israel's lost to him 3 times.
Yeah.
2 of those times he was KO'd. One of them he was like absolutely dead to the world, knocked out in that second kickboxing fight. For him to KO Alex Pereira in the manner that he did, I think was quite special. And again, he's doing it to an elite level kickboxer as well. The person that's probably the closest match to him we've seen in MMA when it comes to striking, at least that he's fought anyway. So yeah, I think it was pretty spectacular. However, I think maybe they were a little bit wrapped up in the moment. And I think that it was more the storyline behind it that made it so fantastic. I mean, if I want to just scroll through Instagram and see something come up a bunch of times, give me Joaquin Buckley ninja kicking the shit out of Impa Kasanganay any day of the week. That is one of the greatest. Jorge Masvidal, Ben Askren. That is one of the greatest knockouts. Not that, but I mean, it was special and it was unexpected, and it was pretty phenomenal.
Celebration with the arrows was fantastic. I just thought that was just hilarious. But
I just because I just heard the press conference, I don't know if he said anything specific about the arrows, but did you see him walking back to his corner and flop down on the ground?
Done that to Pereira's boy, didn't he?
Yeah.
It was really weird because I've seen them chatting backstage and it all looked very respectful.
It was, and he said it was, yeah.
But I did see him say that when Pereira done it to Izzy, his boy laid down there, and he was just like, "Yeah, if you don't whip his ass, I will." And then that's why he done it. And I thought, "Well, that's going to get things going again, isn't it?" And,
If anything's going to make Alex, because Dana White said that Alex Pereira is probably going to move up to 205. He said that I don't have any saying. I don't get, but he said he knows that the weight cut's bad for Pereira, and he said that Pereira had a couple of pounds to cut with just an hour to go at the weigh-ins. So he's got to move up to 205 at some point. He's 35. The weight cuts aren't getting easier. But if anything's going to make you want to do that weight cut again, it's someone saying that about your kid.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
who knows what we've got in store.
One of the things I really liked about how he fought this, and at certain times, you know, if he did get sort of clipped or something like that, he was back on the back foot again. But he was doing way more forward pressure in this fight, and he was,
Oh
and
yeah.
you could tell he was not, you know, he did not want to be up against that cage, and he was sort of controlling the octagon really well. And I thought that was a significant change. And I
It
thought Pereira
was.
looked. Go on.
It was, but yet the reverse is what happened that led to the knockout.
True.
It's like, because I was thinking to myself, that first round and all that, I was like, oh, Izzy's doing what he should be doing. He's not accepting being on the back foot. He's not going to dance and skirt around the edge of the cage, because you can't do that for 25 minutes against Alex Pereira. He will find a way to get you if you're just sticking and moving all the time. So the fact that he was pressuring forward and actually going for it a bit, that really struck me as like, oh, I think this game plan is a much better game plan. You could get hit, but it's kind of a get or get got situation. But funnily enough, it's when Pereira started having success and when he backed him up against the cage that he landed a couple of big body shots and a knee, but hands down was going for his left hook, and Adesanya just came over that huge right hand and just starched him, and he was just like frozen there, hunched over for a second, and then he caught him with another shot and another, and that was it. And then a hammer fist when he was out. It was another hammer fist when he was already well out. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, everything you'd want, you know, from a headline fight. It absolutely delivered everything you want. The drama, the finish, you know, and then from what it sounds like, the post fight as well. It's just, yeah, it's what I think. It's all the stuff that you fell in love with Izzy at the beginning that we see disappear a little bit in some of the sort of latter fights before the first Pereira UFC fight. And just the way that he carried himself in this fight, he looked far more, he looked pissed, he looked fierce.
Yeah.
And he just looked like a man that had something to prove, and boy did he prove it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, leading up to the fight, I was starting to think to myself, is there a bit of false bravado going on? Like the weird dog collar thing and all of that. And I mean, yeah, sure, you like, I don't really watch a lot of those kind of like kung fu movies and all that stuff. And that's just not my thing that I watch. But it was a reference to I don't know if it was like a Jet Li movie or something like that, where he's like some assassin-y guy, he's wearing the dog collar, and as soon as the dog collar's off, this guy goes and smashes people. So he was doing all of that. He even wore it walking down to the cage and all that stuff. It wasn't really my kind of thing, and I think the whole dog off. Really,
I mean, it's
I usually like
bollocks,
the theatrics,
but I like the theatrics. You know, he's still got one of the greatest walkouts of all time. You know,
but that was fucking cool.
Yeah,
like he did some
I think
awesome
if you're a
dancing.
challenger, you can't risk it doing that kind of charismatic walkout. I think next time maybe we see something a bit more flamboyant, but I think this was like strictly business. This one until he got the finish.
I don't know what it was about it that made it feel a little bit corny to me, but like the Undertaker walkout, I thought was just fun when he did that. The Robert Whittaker dancing was, I think that's the best walkout, man. That was absolutely unbelievable. I love it. What a showman. That was absolutely fantastic. The whole like thing he did in the cage with the Whittaker fight with the Death Note thing, again, an anime reference I don't really know, but I'm aware of it now. Writing the name down in that, like, really cool, all awesome. The dog collar just didn't do it for me. It's like the dog's going to be let off the leash. I don't know. I didn't massively enjoy it.
Least aggressive and fierce dog noise I've ever heard.
That's just my dog collar would be like Chihuahua. He's got like Rottweiler vibes. I'm more like, but yeah, like, yeah, I don't know. It didn't get me. But the performance, wow.
Yeah,
and I mean, I need to catch up on a lot more of what he said. I only got a few minutes into his post-fight presser, but man, all of it. Go on.
But I did hear a little interview with him on Instagram from that press conference, and he, from what I gather, he didn't name any names, but he said there's someone that he's gunning for, and he wants to do it in South Africa or Nigeria. And It's got to be Dricus, hasn't it?
If he's saying South Africa, why else? Who else could it possibly
Dricus
be?
said
Why
some
would you go?
interesting and controversial stuff.
Yeah, I wasn't paying a huge amount of attention to certain things that he said, but I think he's effectively saying that was it like he's the true African or something like that. I
I'm
don't know
not
if he
sure.
was. I don't know if he was putting. I think the way it's come across. I don't know if the way it's come across is that I think because Israel moved from Nigeria to New Zealand, and
Sure.
because Kamaru moved from Nigeria to
Yeah.
America, that he's the guy that stayed in Africa. He's the true African, according to him.
That's just
And I
gonna
think a lot
ruffle
of people,
feathers.
a lot of people have taken exception to that, and probably rightfully so. So yeah, I mean, there's probably a lot of it that I'm not aware of and haven't heard, but I think that to question Izzy seems very, very proud of his Nigerian heritage. So to question his Africanness, I guess, is what Dricus is doing there, and questioning his connection to his birthland.
Sure.
That's as you say, that's definitely going to piss someone like Izzy off. So I mean, it must be him that he's talking about, and stylistically, a pretty darn easy fight for Izzy. I would say. I mean,
nice work for Izzy.
Dricus doesn't have the striking quality to get to Izzy, I don't think, and he gasses out after a round.
God, yeah.
So, I mean, heart of a lion, like he keeps going and keeps going, even though he's clearly
Dricus,
very,
5
very
rounds.
tired.
Yeah, all right.
No, I think Izzy would do him probably in the second.
Yeah.
I can't see anything better than that. But who knows? But has Dricus earned a title shot? I don't think so. That win over Derek Brunson wasn't great.
Well,
yeah.
I think moving up to 205s, I know you said that Dana touched on it, but I think we've already spoke about it on previous episodes. It makes sense. There's a storyline there. Pereira. Sorry, yeah. There's a storyline there. Obviously with Jamal. So yeah, I mean, I'm up for it. I think he's a terrifying human being, Alex Pereira, and if he moves up to light heavyweight, I'm very interested to see what he can do there.
Who does he take in his first? Like, so Dana basically said that he thinks Pereira would move up to 205 because the weight cut's so difficult. So I reckon he could get a top 5 guy straight away.
Definitely.
Who does Pereira take on? Because at the moment, you've got Jamal Hill. Looks like they're trying to make the fight with Yuri Prochazka, but I don't know how Prochazka's doing with his shoulder injury. Yeah, so I don't really know. Magomed Ankalaev and Jan Blachowicz fought to that draw before that was for the belt and didn't quite work out. I don't know if they're going to try and remake that fight or not. Alexander Rakic, I don't know when he's back from injury. I don't know if he's got a fight lined up. And Anthony Smith is taking on Johnny Walker very, very soon, I think. So let me just try and see about Rakic and see when he's.
I think give him Ankalaev. I think Ankalaev would be a very interesting fight. I think it's a very obviously definite sort of clash of styles there.
I don't like it.
Why's that?
No, just stylistically, I think it's a boring fight, and I think there's way more fun fights you could have with Alex Pereira. Like Alex Pereira versus someone that's...
Does he deserve fun fights that are just tailored towards his style to fast track?
It's not about what he deserves, it's about what I deserve. Me, the fans, we deserve a fun fight.
No, I mean,
I don't want to see Ankalaev, because Ankalaev, I think, will just bully him over onto the ground and probably lay on him for 3 rounds, and that is it. But if Rakic
is the fight. Rakic is the fight. I'd love to see that.
I don't know when Rakic is coming back.
Yeah.
He had that bad injury against Blachowicz.
Yeah.
With his leg. So I don't know when he's coming back. I mean, part of me thinks don't do Ankalaev Blachowicz again. Dana White found that fight really boring. You could, I mean, I'd be happy for them to redo it. I have no problem with that.
Won that fight, mate.
Well, yeah, I mean, rewatching it, those leg kicks were nasty from Blachowicz,
Yeah.
and I think he did better than what I think I did score it for Ankalaev. You're right, yeah, I did score it for Ankalaev, but it wasn't a robbery or a
Yeah.
walkover or anything like that. I do think that it was probably 3-2 in favor of Ankalaev from what I
Yeah.
vaguely remember. But yeah, I don't know. But I think doing Pereira versus Blachowicz, and Blachowicz can take you down. He's not as good as Ankalaev at it, I don't think, but he can certainly do that. Look what he did to Adesanya.
Yeah.
But he can do that. But I mean, the thought of Pereira versus Prohazka or
Yeah.
Pereira versus Jamal Hill, that gets, or Johnny Walker even maybe. If Johnny
Yeah.
Walker beats Anthony Smith, Johnny Walker's fifth. Johnny Walker versus Alex Pereira is
Yeah.
such a fun fight. Sign me up for that all day long.
Okay. Right, should we move on to Burns and Jorge?
Yeah. I mean,
I thought it was a pretty unexciting fight. It didn't. I thought you was looking at a fighter that was ready to retire. You was looking at a fighter that didn't really have many answers. Didn't really at any given point look like he was going to trouble Burns. Burns, yeah, he controlled a lot, Jorge quite a lot, but also seemed quite happy to fight, like to box with him. I just thought obviously there's so much hype around Masvidal, but how many losses is that on the bounce now? It's a few, isn't it? And
maybe four.
4, yeah,
Two to Kamaru, one to Colby, one to Burns.
Yeah, like just didn't think he was very good.
Well, look, I think Gilbert Burns. I've discredited Gilbert Burns in the past, and I think actually he is. I've changed my mind on that a fair bit. I do think he's got better and better.
His footwork was incredible last night.
Yeah, I think his striking is massively improved. I think he definitely does hit hard as well. I think whenever a fighter talks about retiring, it's never great, because I think Dana White says it all the time. If you've got one foot out the door, you shouldn't be in this business. It's it's not good for you. It's dangerous for you. And I think my opinion on this fight changed midweek when I heard the comments of Masvidal saying, "Oh, if I don't win this fight, I'm going to retire." As soon as he said that, I went, I think he's done. Then he's not going to win this fight, because actually on paper, like Burns was a big favorite, and I think he won every round of the fight. But Masvidal's actually really good defensively. Like, he was able to survive on the ground. I mean, he wasn't able to win anything on the ground, which is very important, but he was able to survive on the ground, and he landed a few strikes, but I think Burns was just better. And I think as the fight went on as well, Masvidal being 38, all that stuff, I think Burns just, his cardio was way better. He was able to continue the pressure forward, landing some good strikes toward the end. I mean, Masvidal's chin, he's only been knocked out the once, wasn't it? And that was to Kamaru in their second fight, which was a brutal knockout. But it looks like his chin held up pretty well. So I reckon Burns hits really bloody hard as well. Burns was catching him quite a few times, and Masvidal was just doing that smile, tongue out thing.
Yeah,
but
you don't do that unless that hurt you.
Yeah, that's what I think. But he took it, and he seemed fine afterwards. And that, I mean, what an amazing career. I mean, he's done now. He's done. He's got his boxing promotion. But for someone that has got a record, I'd have to pull up his record, but it's something like 50 odd fights. And I think
35 and 17.
35 and 17. So what's that, like? Over a third of his fights is lost. Is that right? I mean, something like that.
He got his star quality very late in his career, didn't he?
Massively late. The journeyman Masvidal was what everyone was calling him, and in a sense they were right. But he just struck gold. He knocked out Darren Till in spectacular fashion in enemy territory. I mean, I was nigh on front row for it, and it was, you could hear a pin drop when Masvidal did that. And I don't think Till respected his power enough, and I think that Masvidal took huge advantage of that. And And then lightning in a bottle, the flying knee to Ben Askren. I mean, Ben Askren must watch that and go, what the fuck was I doing? Like, I think he's mentioned that with the takedown, his head was on the wrong side, all these things. But the fact that Masvidal had been drilling it, you saw training footage of him doing that flying knee and all that, lightning in a bottle. Will that ever be beaten? The fastest ever KO in UFC history, 5 seconds. That's a
Flying
tough
knee
beat.
as well.
Flying knee.
Amazing.
But it's got to be something mental, isn't it? So, like, if you're just bouncing to the cage like that and then you land about like that, 5 seconds is probably gone. He jogged. He ran across the octagon. And after doing that casual hands behind his back, leaning against the octagon. And then he just like
done it last night. I love it.
Oh, a couple of steps to the side and then sprint, bang. Like, how is that going to be? Unless someone just comes out and does. Was it Fabrizio Verdum to Travis Brown where he just ran across the cage and fly kicked him? And that's heavyweights.
Yeah.
He just fly kicked him. Like, unless someone does that and it actually knocks someone out, I don't see how that gets beat, that 5-second KO.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, down in the history books, isn't he? And the money he's made off of it, the BMF fight with Nate Diaz, all that stuff. Was this guy ever going to get title shots before all this stuff happened? The Ben Askren? Probably not, no. But they put him into them because they were like, well, look at him, he's a star, everyone loves him.
Of the backyard brawls and stuff like that. He's all very good at marketing him, and he looks like an absolute, Miami gangster, doesn't he? In his shirts and his his hair, and he's so marketable. And he talks good. He talks good trash, and I mean, it felt like there was quite a lot of more respect going into this one. But like you say, if he's already got it in his back of his mind that if this is it, then I'm done. Then the writing is on the wall, I think. But I don't really want to touch on his speech afterwards.
Oh God, what did he say? Trump's the best president in history. I'm like, didn't Abraham Lincoln literally end slavery?
Yeah.
Abraham Lincoln end slavery, but Trump clearly must be the best president ever.
Just a little bit disappointing.
I mean, Miami seems to be that town, I guess. I don't know. It's just, look, man, your political leanings. There's some things that's just objectively not true, and an objective fiction is that Trump is the best president in US history. So not on board with that. But whatever, he's got his boxing promotion, which apparently did pretty well the other night. Had some fun fights on it.
Had some huge names on that. So if you can keep up that level of competition and match fights like he did, then I mean, I'm sure he's going to have success. As he said in the thing, I'm a multi-millionaire now from this sport. So enjoy it. Let's talk about a really exciting fight now.
Hang on. We've done a disservice to Gilbert Burns there.
We have. Sorry,
we've done a disservice. So Gilbert Burns
called out the winner of.
He called out the winner of Colby Leon. Has he done enough to confirm that he's the next guy up?
I think so.
All right, hypothetical then. Let's say Bilal Muhammad in 2-3 months' time goes and beats either Kamaru Usman, who he mentioned wanting to fight, or, as unlikely as it might be, Shavkat Rakhmonov. Does Gilbert Burns deserve the shot over Bilal Muhammad when Bilal Muhammad is on a longer win streak and he would have last beaten either Kamaru or Shavkat?
Because Jorge weren't even top 10, was he? So
he was 11th, ranked 11th. So, and before that, Burns beat Magny, which was a very good win.
Maybe. I see what you're saying now. And when you look at who Bilal's beaten, then
I mean, undefeated Sean Brady, and I know people don't give Sean Brady the kind of the name value that other people have, but he was undefeated, man. He was tearing through the division.
I don't know. I mean, I think we're going to see some terrifying stuff coming from Shavkat as the rest of this year unfolds. I think that guy's a problem. I think the winner of Colby Leon are both good fights for Gilbert Burns. Shavkat,
do you reckon?
I think he can definitely grapple high level with Colby, and I think his grappling maybe isn't as good as Kamaru's, but I think it'd be a problematic fight as probably as
I
problematic.
think Burns Colby is a more fun fight because I think Colby won't want to take Burns down because he's so good on the ground.
Yeah.
And Burns won't be able to take Colby down because Colby's a better wrestler. Third degree black belt in jiu-jitsu, Gilbert Burns. So no one's going to want to go to the ground with Gilbert Burns. It's a bit like a Charles Oliveira factor. But Burns won't be able to take Colby down. So Colby Burns will just be a weird, scrappy boxing match, which would be quite fun. Obviously, I'm hoping it doesn't happen because I want Leon to be the champ.
Yeah.
I think Leon would outstrike Burns. The
100%.
power, I think, would maybe be in Burns' favor. So Leon would have to be careful. But I think Leon outstrikes Burns easily. And I think he should be able to keep it on the feet as well because Burns' takedowns aren't as good as Kamaru's.
Yeah.
So, and if he's also just prepared for Colby as well and beaten Colby and stopped him taking him down, I can't see Burns being able to take him down. The only problem is if Leon made a mistake and it did hit the ground, Leon's defense has got to be on point because Burns is lethal with the jiu-jitsu. The other thing before we move on to Yanez, did you see the and I've noticed this a little bit before, but it really got me this time. Did you see how Burns was saying to Masvidal, like, oh yeah, your can of Monster energy drink, don't forget that. And then they both did a thing of drinking it, but
drinks.
It's so clearly empty.
Yeah.
Both cans are so clearly empty, but they both do a little drink of it. There must be an underlying sponsorship commission-y thing.
Of course.
If you're holding your Monster Energy can, you'll get an extra $1,000. If you do a sip from it, you get an extra $2,000 or $3,000 or something like that. There must be something like that going on behind the scenes.
100%. Like, I thought that was weird.
It was because he even said to him, grab your Monster can.
Yeah. And then they both just took them pretend goals of nothing. It was weird, wasn't it? Well, remember, I completely forgot about that until you mentioned that.
It was so weird. Could someone please tell me what the pretend sips are about of the Monster Energy drink? I need to get to the bottom of this. It must be monetary. It has to be. What else could it possibly be? But I need to know officially what's the deal with the pretend drinking. And maybe that's something, the next guest we have on the show, maybe that's something we need to ask them, but maybe they won't be able to give it away. The pretend sips, it needs to be looked at. It's a mystery of our generation.
Yeah.
Font and Yanez. Woo! Banger.
Like,
so good.
I bloody love Rob Font. I just think he seems like such a dude as well. Like, and I obviously looks so thrilled to get a win and again to take on. I think he said that, who is it that gave him an opportunity when he was unranked to I can't think it was. And was it Neil Magnick? No,
very different division.
Who was it who said that?
It wasn't like Aldo or something, was it?
I can't remember who it was, but he said it gave him a shot.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah,
pay that back, and I think that's wonderful. And Yanez, such an exciting fighter, and it looked like a war, even though it was finished at 2 minutes 57 of the first round. Like, it was insane. Like, Rob Font looked like he'd been in a 5-rounder.
And Yanez hits hard, and he's got good crisp boxing.
Yeah, and Rob Font's sort of winding hook uppercut, sort of like
in the clinch, wasn't it? He kind of pulled him into it, and he did it just before, and I don't think it quite landed.
Yeah,
and then he did it again a few seconds later, and it connected big time. And from that moment, Yanez was just on wobbly legs, couldn't quite recover.
Brilliant! Like, one of the best boxers in the UFC, Rob Font. I think his boxing is phenomenal, and throwing a shot like that from where he was as well, and to get that, fantastic. I don't know what's next for Rob Font.
Well, let's play the game.
Okay.
Let's play the game. I want a little game show theme tune now. See, if we were good at all this stuff, we'd be like, what's next for Rob Font? What is next for Rob Font? I reckon. Oh, well, he's got a fight above him in the rankings.
Yeah.
I think.
Right. I ain't got the rankings.
Petr Yan.
Yeah. I mean,
Petr Yan. What a fight that would be.
that ain't going to the grand.
That well, Yan could if he wanted to get his trips out and all that stuff, but maybe it would be sensible for him to try that. But Rob Font versus Petr Yan, yes, please sign me up all day long.
I'll tell you
That
what,
would be a
Harrison,
cracker.
that's
And
the next
Yan,
fight.
you know,
That's going to happen.
and Jan's on like what is he? Is he on like a? We discussed it before, didn't he? Like Petr Jan's. Is it 2 or 3 now,
Yeah.
or like he's lost 3 of his last 4 or something like that?
That's the fight. That's the fight right there. Yeah, I think
that's a great fight, isn't it?
Yeah,
that is a really cracking fight.
Both super, you know.
Oh God, he's on a 3-fight losing streak, Petr Yan. Yeah, with the Marav. I forgot about the Marav fight. Yeah, that's the fight. What a great fight that would be. Good for Petr Yan if he gets the win back. Good for him. Rob Font would leap up in the rankings, fight a former champion. That would be really great. And I just think, again, from a fan's perspective, as a spectator, that would be absolutely fantastic. I'd love to see that fight.
Yeah.
Adrian Yanez, I mean, I feel for him. I felt like he was winning some of the early exchanges and he had the power advantage over Font, I felt, until he landed that uppercut.
Yeah.
And then Font just chased him and landed some just fantastic crisp hands. Really good.
Absolutely.
Adrian Yanez now probably should fight behind him in the rankings. He may have to fight an unranked guy because he's ranked 12th, or he might have to fight someone like a Saeed Nurmagomedov if he doesn't have a fight book. I do like Saeed Nurmagomedov. I think he's very good. But he's coming off a loss as well, actually, Saeed Nurmagomedov. So maybe he wouldn't be fighting above himself in the rankings. So I imagine he might have to fight like an unranked guy. But I don't think Yanez is done at all. I think he met someone on the night, and that fight could have gone either way. I think from the early exchanges, you were seeing that Yanez was doing pretty well. Yeah. And then that one big shot just changed it, as it does at this level of MMA. You're talking about fine margins. And so I think Yanez is young as well. I think he's only like mid-20s or something like that, Yanez. So yeah, I think Yanez will come back. I'm sure he'll get a few more wins under his belt. And I still believe that one day he could even potentially make a run at the title. So yeah, I think it's all fine for Yanez. It might be a good thing for him to have this loss now and kind of, you know, just reset and go again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my God, actually, I got that completely wrong. He's 29, so not as young as I thought he was. But I still think he can do good things. I like Adrian Yanez, and he's a very, very fun fighter to watch as well.
At 170, Kevin Holland versus Ponzanibio.
Yeah.
Fun fight.
Fun fight. Kevin Holland was having fun, wasn't he? He was enjoying himself out there.
He looked really good as well. I thought he's so long, and like I think Ponzanibio really did struggle with the reach advantage and stuff. I thought, like you say, Holland looked like he was having fun in there. There's some fights that I don't know if we'll get on to talking about, and I can't think what other fight it was, but I'm so sick of hearing DC and Joe Rogan talking about fucking calf kicks. I'm so bored of it. I'm so bored of it. Because there's other stuff going on in the fight. The calf kicks in all of them fights that were on that card may have hindered them a fraction, but nobody was limping during them fights. Nobody was taking like excessive damage where it was like, oh my God, how are they getting through this? They were still throwing kicks. And I just thought, calf kick. Like, shut up, banging on about fucking calf kicks. Like, now when you think like,
it was big in the Pereira Adesanya fight. They were talking about Pereira landing
it was a karate hottie fight. It was just relentless, and it was like, shut up. Like we can see. You don't have to highlight every single one. Oh, it drove me mental. Like, yeah, just I'm not a fan of them two together as commentators. It just winds me up. There's better people out there. Bring Dominic Cruz in. Just wanted to get that off my chest fucking calf
No,
kicks.
you feel better now, do you?
A little bit, yeah. Like calf kicks are obviously very effective, you know, and low kicks, whatever you want to call them. Like, you know, but if you want to get excited about that, go and watch Muay Thai. Just go and watch people like smash their shins into people's legs all day long. Like, stop banging on about calf kicks when there's so much more stuff going on in that fight that's having just as much, you know, effect on their opponent as a calf kick.
Do you think it's that we've seen it have such massive effects in some other fights that now people are getting a bit carried away with it?
Yeah, massively. And yeah, I'm just bored of hearing them talk about it. Really am. I think we can move on. I just wanted to get that off my chest.
Oh, yeah, no, good.
I'm a
Good for
bit
you,
tired
mate.
as well.
Yeah, it's a safe space here, mate. You
Thanks,
talk about
mate.
what you want.
Appreciate that. Appreciate that.
Okay.
I
But yeah,
think
no,
Kevin
Holland looked good.
He
Looked
did,
very
and,
good.
And I think at 170, there's, you know, hopefully there's some fun fights for him. We don't want to necessarily see him with a grappler. I don't think that's going to give.
If he puts a couple of wins together, he's going to have to. He's going to have to fight like a Neil Magny or a Sean Bray or whoever, you know, at some point if he keeps putting wins together. But I can really see Kevin Holland in that Cowboy Cerrone role. And he can just be like, I will fight 4 or 5 times a year.
Yeah.
I'll turn up. I'll put on a good show. Yeah. I will chat in the cage and make it fun for everyone. And I'll win maybe more than I lose, but I will probably remain around the kind of, I don't know, 12 to just outside the top 15 range for a large portion of my career. But maybe he'll surprise us, and especially if he gets matched up in the right way. But then we all thought the Wonder Boy fight might be the kind of matchup that works for him, and he couldn't quite get past Wonder Boy either. So there's limits to his striking as well. I mean, Wonder Boy is obviously very special with his striking, but you know, there's limitations there clearly. But Ponzanibio didn't really seem to have any answers for him.
No,
he couldn't get on the inside. Holland's movement, Holland was kind of chasing him down for a lot of it, to be fair. The length, Ponzanibio just couldn't get past it. And I was kind of thinking, if you're fighting Kevin Holland, you got to threaten the takedown. And Ponzanibio just couldn't get close enough to even try that. And yeah, but that's what I think you've got to be doing. Even if you're predominantly a striker, you've got to at least threaten the takedown to get Holland thinking about it. Otherwise, it's what he does well, especially when he's in that flow state.
Your Magnis and your Chiesas aren't necessarily good fights for him. I know they're probably in the sort of area that he's going to be looking, but I do think they're people that are going to go, right, look, we know he's got this huge flaw in his game. And I think them people on the peripheries like Magny and Chiesa will just jump all over that. I know there was 100%. Some beef in the week. Had Masvidal took that loss and wanted to fight again, that was a great fight. Like, I think Masvidal, Holland would have been, you know. But looking at the whole how it turned up last night, I think
Holland would have had his way with him.
Yeah,
totally. I agree. I wonder what Michel Pereira's up to. Is he booked? Because that could be a fun fight. I heard a rumor that he was booked against Wonderboy, but I don't know if that was nonsense. So I don't know.
That's a fun fight.
That would be a fun fight. Can't find him. So yeah, I don't know if he's booked or not, but I would love to see that fight. Kevin Holland versus Michel Pereira would be an absolute cracker.
Absolutely. Right, Christian Rodriguez. I thought, you know, he was obviously put in against Raul Ross Jr., who was this absolute hype train, you know, that smashed it on the Contender Series, and all of a sudden we're seeing him on the main card in what was his second official fight within the, you know, in the UFC, and I think, I mean, I'm not suggesting Rodriguez is a journeyman by any stretch of it, but the calmness of Rodriguez last night. Raul Ross has come flying out and just tried to maul him right from the off, and I think Rodriguez just had a really good game plan. He just went with the pace of it, and then what you were seeing then was Rosa starting to slow down in the second round, and then I think Rodriguez just absolutely dominated him. I thought he'd run out of ideas, and I think, you know, the slightly more experienced fighter, that experience really shone through last night. And I think Rosa's inexperience really did. It was noticeable. And another thing as well, and I know I've just said that inexperience shone through. From the beginning of the second round, again, Rogan and DC, all they could focus on was the inexperience of Rosas Jr. And it's like, mate, stop hating on this kid. Like, he's, you know,
that's not hating on him, is it?
Like,
well, is it not just saying the facts?
Do you know what? But it was like, look, we know you don't.
Because I felt like that. I felt like if you watch that performance, if someone said to you, "Oh, there's fighter A is 18 years old. He's got loads and loads of hype behind him. He's a grappler, and he's fighting a guy with not much more experience, but he's 25, so he's got, you know, it's a 25-year-old against an 18-year-old. He's got a lot more experience in the gyms and, you know, fighting, sparring with top guys, all that stuff. How do you see the fight going? I think it's highly likely that you could say, oh, the 18-year-old's going to come out going absolutely mental because he's on a pay-per-view card and it's a really big deal and there's loads of hype behind him and all that stuff. And he could gas himself out. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. I think
the way he shot for that first takedown was mental as well. He shot from like halfway across the octagon. It was madness. I mean, he ended up getting it, so good luck to him and all that. But he wore himself out chasing that early finish, I think.
You know, I hope that he learns from that. He's so young, and we'll see him, you know, get back on the winning streak, because obviously there's people within the organisation that have seen something really special in him, and I think, I don't know, throwing these kids into these sort of high profile events at such, you know, main card at such a young age, you know, should you be a little bit more careful with their career? Should you nurture it a bit more? I don't know. Like,
yes, I agree. They should have been more careful and they should have nurtured him a little bit more. There's still time to do that because he's only 18 years old. How he mentally recovers from a loss like this at 18 on such a high profile stage, I don't know. And he didn't do himself any favors, actually, because in the lead up to this fight, I think he made some comments that they're not going to age very well. And he was being asked about the fact that he's on the main card and, you know, it's only his second UFC fight or whatever it was. And there's ranked fighters in the prelims, which we've talked about. I don't like it. I think if you're a ranked fighter, you deserve to be higher in the pecking order of the card than particularly an 18-year-old that's on their second fight in the UFC. But his response to the comments were things like, all these people like hating on me, these other fighters that are moaning about it, they should take notes and look at what I'm doing. I'm second fight and I'm already on the main card. Look at all the hype and the buzz behind me. They should take notes. It's like, mate, you haven't really done anything. You've been given an opportunity at a really young age. Like you've done well for what you're doing, but you haven't necessarily done more than loads of other people before you have done.
Yeah.
But you've been given the opportunity. So it's not about them taking notes. It's about be grateful for the opportunity that you're given. And because he had the response he had and he didn't go down the humble route, I think that those comments will bite him in the arse. People will start rooting against him. And when you've made comments like that and then you suffer your loss in quite, not an embarrassing fashion, because again, he's only 18. He can definitely come back and still have a fantastic career. But I just think on the public stage like that, main card, pay-per-view, you take that loss, the people around you, I mean, people in the local area, mates, all that stuff, chance people might be saying stuff about him, taking the piss, any of that stuff. How is he going to bounce back? This is all going to be a big test for him mentally now. And I do think, as you said, the UFC could have done better by him by giving him maybe an easier opponent, bringing people in from other organizations that he's very much. I think he was probably expected to win this one, but actually the guy he fought was 25 and like 7-1 or something like that. So it's not a pushover, but they should maybe, for these young guys like that, maybe give them ones that are a bit more the Bellator style. Bellator do this. Bellator make fights where they go, this is our guy that we want to be our guy in 3 years. let's just bring in someone that we know is going to we know is going to lose. And I know that UFC go, well, we're the best fighting the best. We don't no easy fights here and all that stuff. But well, if you're going to take on an 18-year-old guy or a 17 at the time he was signed, and he's only had 7 pro fights, maybe you should change things up a bit if that's what you're going to do. Otherwise, leave them or give them a developmental deal where you say, you're signed to the UFC, but what we want you to do is go and have a few fights in LFA or, I don't know, Brave, Fury, whatever it is, the organizations that are out there. Go and have some fights in those organizations to build yourself up. You will come here, we'll pay your wages or half your wages or whatever it is, but you go and fight for those organizations. If you're a European guy, go to Cage Warriors and keep getting some wins in Cage Warriors. And in a year and a half's time, 2 years' time, 3-4 fights, come back to us with all that experience. Come back to us, and then we'll do what we always wanted to do with you. But yeah, I kind of think it wasn't laid out particularly well for him.
And the fact that took up a space on that main card, for the more casual fans that tuned in for that main card, they missed the fight of the night. They missed.
I mean,
Gastelum, Chris Curtis, which was absolutely fantastic. Like Kevin Gastelum, his jab, his 1-2s, his footwork, he was on fire last night. And taking nothing away from Chris Curtis, he looked awesome too. But Gastelum was just that much quicker. It felt that like Chris Curtis was probably more powerful. It felt like maybe he had the edge on the power. A couple of southpaws just going at it was absolutely fantastic. I love Kelvin anyway. I'm a huge fan. And you see how much that win meant to him. A decision win for those that haven't seen it, unanimous. And it was a fantastic fight. Absolutely fantastic. I thought he looked like the Gastelum of old, and yeah, I can't wait to see what he's round the corner for him, because love him to bits, mate.
Really fun fighter to watch when he's in that kind of form. It was one of the best Kelvin Gastelum performances I've seen in a very, very long time. However, I think I kind of scored it for Chris Curtis.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I was sort of getting a bit distracted, I'm not going to lie, so I maybe would have to... I'm not concerned about the decision or disappointed by the decision at all. But I kind of felt like round 1 I gave to Gastelum. Round 2 was an interesting one because they had an accidental clash of heads which put Curtis on the ground, and had that been a strike, I would have given it to Kelvin, but it wasn't. That was due to an accidental headbutt, so I don't think you can score that for Kelvin. And then he lands a couple of punches in, like, kind of, kind of, whilst he's sort of half taking his back or whatever, then he kind of gets shrugged off over the top. And then Curtis comes back, and Curtis was ripping the body, and I think landed some fantastic clean strikes, big strikes on Kelvin. And I do feel like Kelvin was landing as well, crisp 1-2s, all those things. But I think I gave round 2 to Curtis, despite the fact that he looked like it could have been a fight in the scenario, because it didn't come from a legal strike. It came from an accidental clash of heads. So for me, I felt like that could have been down as Curtis's round. It was all very close.
I do think
and then round 3, I think I gave to Curtis.
In the second round. I'm quite sure he by quite a lot as well.
But again, the judges at the time of doing it don't necessarily know that it's an accidental clash of heads, I don't think, when it happens. So when you see a fighter that's gone down in the manner that he did, and then Kelvin on top of him raining down punches, you're going to give the round to Kelvin, and I completely understand that. But we know through the commentary and through the replays that it was an illegal thing. It was not that Kelvin did it on purpose. It was just a clash of heads, whatever, unintentional. But Curtis came off worse, was rattled by it clearly, but then still did well enough. And I think I gave round 3 to Curtis as well. But ultimately, the true winners were the fans. The true winners, deservedly fight of the night. An absolute cracker. Really, really good fight. And it was nice to see Kelvin in fine form again, which I don't feel like we've really seen for a long time. He's moved over to, is it Fight Ready? Is that the Henry Cejudo camp? I think. So yeah, he's over there doing like getting better. He's only you forget how old Kelvin is. I mean, you think Kelvin's been around for such a long time. He's only
Mate,
31 years old.
absolutely. When he was the last pick on the Ultimate Fighter, he was 12 years old.
Which makes the win over Uriah Hall all the more impressive.
Absolutely. Do you know what I'd like to see next for Kelvin? Sean Strickland.
Oh, hang on. Were they in? Yeah. Oh, even more so because Strickland was in Chris Curtis's corner. Oh, I love it there. You've got some nice storylines going on.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. Where is Strickland ranked? Because he got that great win over Evloev. He's 7th, and
Kelvin
Gastelum
was
is
15.
15th.
He's probably going to move up, and
Curtis
14. So maybe he moves up to 14.
Derek Brunson will come out of the rankings as well. I think he's retired.
Yeah.
So Kelvin Gastelum against, yeah. I mean, he could take on Imavov because that fight was already booked and it didn't work out. Imavov now coming off a loss. Kelvin will be 3 places behind him in the rankings. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. No, it'd be good. It'd be nice to see this version of Kelvin doing
Strickland in his stupid face.
Doing well.
Amazing.
Well, we'll see. I mean, we'll see. I mean, I think Kelvin looking good and doing so well, great. It wasn't a fight that he ran away with, and it was against Chris Curtis, who's ranked 14th. So I'm by no means expecting Kelvin to make a run at the belt or even the top 5 necessarily. Yeah, it would have to be getting the right kind of matchups, I think.
I did say that it's probably the first time he's fought someone the same height as him, because he's obviously not the tallest of middleweights.
Yeah.
So
I do wonder if there's a discipline thing. Like, should he be a welterweight? He's very, I've not got a great body, but he doesn't look like an athlete, does he? Is that rude?
So offensive. I don't feel so bad about dissing DC and Rogan now about fucking car kicks. You've just gone straight for the winner. You've just ruined his moment. He's just got back on the winning streak. I just wonder,
because he was meant to be a welterweight, wasn't he? And then he had real trouble making the weight. And you just look at him and you go, why did you have trouble making the weight?
Like Harrison's saying. The MMA podcast on my behalf is very body positive.
It's not about body, it's about whether he's, because he struggled with weight before. He missed weight loads at welterweight, but you don't look at him and go, God, you're shredded. Like Alex Pereira, you're like, Jesus, mate, how are you making 185?
Yeah.
And then there's other fighters where you go, how are they making whatever weight? Because they're shredded. Like, where is any fat or water coming from? But with Kelvin, you're like, well, you know what I mean?
I don't know what you mean. Tell me.
It's a fair amount of water jiggling around. I don't mean it in a bad way.
No, I know you're being lovely. It's a really nice. It's a really nice thing. Fucking hell.
I think I'm tired.
Right. Let's move on quickly to Michelle, the Karate Hottie, Waterson - Gomez versus Pereira. I scored this for the Hottie. I thought
I did as well.
She won that. It was a close fight.
I was watching it like live, like kind of wanting to fall asleep, and so I don't feel I was kind of scoring it as properly as I maybe should have been.
Yeah.
But I definitely had the feeling at the end that Michelle Waterson was on top and had won. I love the front kicks to the chest and to the face.
Yeah.
Really, really good. I love her style as well. I maybe slightly biased. I like her style. But,
I think it's quite
she
unique.
was surprised as well. You could see her afterwards be like, wow, when the judges read that she hadn't won. Joe Pyfer. Oh, go on. Did you want to carry on about?
No. Again, I just think, when you do see, that's why we love Wonder Boy. That's why we love Conor when he had that kind of, karate style. You don't see it very often in the UFC. And so when you do, it's always a treat to see people fight like that. And the kicks off the lead leg are just always fantastic. And she's, absolutely fantastic, Waterson. And I felt she had a tough night with the judges last night. I thought she nicked that. Yeah. But so that aside, Pereira definitely had a power advantage. She throws heavy hands. You can see that, and solid fight that. But I would disagree with the judges on that. So you want to talk about curtains for Mearshart?
Joe, I was just. Joe Pyfer with a great KO in round one on Gerald Mearshart. I mean, it was a weird finish in a way because it looked like, and particularly if you were listening to DC on the commentary, like Mearshart was done. He wasn't grabbing the leg or anything. He was kind of protecting himself, but not necessarily fighting back or anything like that.
It was weird.
But Pyfer seemed to it's because I felt like Goddard was ready to step in at any moment where he just landed a couple of but Pyfer kept stopping, didn't he?
Yeah.
He landed a big strike, he went down, and then he would land a strike, step back, and give him a couple of seconds to breathe. Had he just landed 1, 2, 3, Goddard would have stepped straight in there. But because he landed 1, then step back, or 1, 2, then step back, it gave Goddard pause to go, well, you're not finishing him, so what?
Yeah. He wasn't out, and then was he?
And he wasn't out, but he didn't want the fight to continue. I think is fair to say. So I mean, but well done for Joe Pyfer. I mean, Mearshart is one of those kind of gatekeepers to maybe not quite the top 15, but he's certainly a guy that is good, looks good on your resume. He's very highly experienced. He's probably always floating around that kind of 15 to 20 range, Gerald Mearshart.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really good win, and we could see Joe Pyfer maybe not get a ranked opponent next, but the middleweight division is crying out for stuff. I mean, look, let's double back round onto Adesanya now, and where are we going from here? Because you're looking at the rankings. Let's say Pereira is now out of the rankings. He moves up to 205.
Mm-hmm.
Robert Whittaker he's beat him twice. Vettori beat him twice. Cannonier beat him once in a fight we don't never need to see again. Paulo Costa beat him emphatically. Then Dricus du Plessis. Okay, makes sense that maybe he's the next guy up. Is anyone really giving Dricus a chance? Absolutely not. Dricus has not looked like he's a guy that can trouble. He struggled with Darren Till. He struggled against Derek Brunson. Yes, he got the job done, but it was by no means easy fights for him. He didn't dominate. Then you got Sean Strickland, who, he's not going to cause Izzy any problems. Derek Brunson, I think, has retired now, or should be. He's mentioned he wanted to retire. Roman Dolidze lost to Marvin Vettori recently, and there's that crop of young middleweights that are, I don't know, even just a matter of 6 months ago, we were going, the new ones are coming through. Roman Dolidze's coming through. Nasruddin Imovov's coming through. Oh, wait, he goes up against Strickland and gets beat. Andre Muniz is coming through. Oh, wait, he got beat by Brendan Allen out of nowhere. Like, no one was expecting that to happen. Who are the guys at middleweight? Izzy's either beaten them all, or they're just kind of stumbling when they're these characters that maybe we're thinking of the new young crop of middleweight guys. I don't know. Maybe you do get a guy like Joe Pyfer, and maybe this will actually be his undoing in the long run. You give him a ranked guy early because this division needs a refresh. It needs something more. And Izzy, I could see him continually racking up wins against people that are quite well below him. I'd probably rather see him fight Pereira again, because I think there's actually danger in that fight. I do think I would favor Izzy in another fight. I think this new way of attacking Pereira is the way to do it. But Pereira has got more chance of beating Izzy than Dricus du Plessis, Sean Strickland, Roman Dolidze, Jacko Manson, Nasruddin Imavov. Like, the list goes on, man.
None of them are fights that you go, oh, cool, yeah, that'd be good.
Are we waiting for Hamzat?
I think
is that what it is? Hamzat just needs one win. He needs to fight Paulo Costa or someone like that, get one win, and boom. Hamzat's the guy where we go, oh, there's actually some... It feels like there's some danger for Izzy here.
Yeah.
Because anyone else that we've mentioned, I don't see where the danger comes from for Izzy.
I hear you.
I really don't.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that was UFC 287. I don't think there's too much more on that card that I want to... Well, I've not seen Fight Pass prelims yet. I'm going to try and catch them this afternoon. Was there anything else you wanted to touch on last night's events?
No, I thought overall it was a really fun card, a good card, and it's very exciting to hear that they are. Well, we kind of knew it already, but to get confirmation from Dana, and it's not just rumors, that UFC are hoping to be back in London for a pay-per-view event in July. That'll be very exciting.
But sooner than that, April the 16th, we get to watch Arnold Allen beat Max Holloway in Kansas City in the T-Mobile Center, and we cannot wait. So come on, Arnold.
Come on, Arnold.
We'll be back next time with another episode. Thanks for all your support. If you're watching it on YouTube, thanks ever so much for watching and putting up with me, playing with me, taking a selfie because it went a bit wonky. And if it's your first time listening, go smash that back catalogue because they're all there for free. A load of them are up on the archives on the YouTube channel as well. So go get stuck in because you'll see that we've chatted to a real who's who of the MMA community. All your favourite fighters. Go and catch them chats now, either on the usual podcast platforms or on YouTube. Go get stuck in. And I think we're done.
I think we are. Right. Thanks very much.
Bye.
Bye, guys.